Okay, no, so, and we're gonna go out of order, if we could.
Eke out another couple
She's
minutes.
not feeling well, so.
Yeah, yeah.
No, for F1?
No.
Yeah. Long time no see.
I know, it's been a few hours, right?
Yeah, right.
You guys get moved into
I'm
the
sorry.
office,
Yeah, 7:09. All right, we might as well get started, looks like we have a quorum. So it's 4:02 PM on Wednesday, August 21st, and this is Bill O'Brien calling to order the regular meeting of the Policy Review Committee. And we do have a quorum. So if it's okay with everybody, we'll go out of order and let Kim speak.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I think we're gonna go over two policies related to health and wellness. I believe you went over med administration already. You might have had a read through at the last policy meeting. I was not here.
Kim's gonna address the two medical policies, so they have read them, so you guys can fire questions away.
It's,
So Floyd had gone through, they had done a policy for Milford, which I think you saw, I think you said you might have a couple comments on. So one of them, the one he went through was the health assessments and immunizations. He went through that, and then the other one was the administering. And so basically, this is just a cut and paste of the Milford policy.
Updated to Stratford, it reflected Stratford. If anybody has questions about something or they don't understand, happy to take questions. It's pretty cut and dry. We follow Connecticut policies, so we just want to bring ours up to date and
Right.
have it reflected on the website so parents understand what is expected of them. Okay.
So one of the things we did want to do is have it reflect the kids who have to have the immunizations to get into school. There was some grace period, I think, in there, but also to remove the religious exemptions.
Right.
Which was passed by the state, but it just hadn't been updated in so many years, it was still part of our policy, so.
I agree.
Yeah. And then I think with the administering of, I don't have that in front of me, the administering.
There were some new regulations passed down by the state about administering medications. Do you have that one in front of you, Kim?
Yeah.
We got that one here.
Is there any important parts about this one you think that we need to highlight?
No, I think they, go through identifying who can administer meds and who cannot. That was a little bit of a gray area the past couple of years, the state made it clear. Of course, no one is expected to administer medication unless the nurse is not there, so they explain that now. They identify who can do that. The nurse is responsible to make sure that the administrator or designee is trained on the med administration. So if need be, if the nurse is not there, we have somebody that we can delegate that duty to. Again, it's a state guideline that we follow.
Okay, so the administering of medications was approved at the board, I guess, for first read. So this, I guess we don't have to address that here. But, and I think it was already changed.
It's already revised,
Okay.
matched.
So, and there were a couple of questions in there, but that's all, you've read through that? and-
Yes.
So this one then we'll just take up at the board meeting
Perfect.
as a second read?
Yes.
And then the immunizations, if you had any, everything's okay with?
Everything looks good.
So you're happy with this?
Yes. We're very happy.
Good.
May I?
Sure.
I don't see Narcan administration or availability, but I'm just, you gotta do it.
No, good question. We have a separate Narcan policy.
Okay.
That went into effect last year.
Okay.
So, it's already posted on our site. Right, Teresa? Yes.
Does it get linked to this or not necessarily?
It falls under the 5,000, section.
Yep.
But it has its own category.
Got it. Thank you.
Just so you know, all high school admin were trained in administering Narcan.
Excellent. And you have enough,
Well, we each received a dose as part of the training.
yeah, good.
And those that dose will be replaced every 2 years. So they're coming up on shelf life of expiration. So, we'll definitely have more supply being.
I want to say all, both secondary schools, all secondary schools.
Oh, yeah,
That was
okay.
trained as well.
Sorry about that.
So when you received the dose, you mean they gave it to you?
We have it
They have
ready
it.
to use,
They
we didn't give it to us.
Okay.
It's a nasal spray.
That's an interesting way to track
Actually,
it.
nasal spray, which is, was interesting to hear.
So then this is good then, we can send it to the board, so then if nobody has any other questions, make a motion to approve and send it to the board with a favorable recommendation.
I second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Kim.
Yeah, no problem.
Kim, you may go home. It'll be better.
Nice seeing you, Kim.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you all. Yeah.
Okay, so now, we need a motion to accept the minutes of the special meeting of June 24th.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Continued discussion on other policies. So we'll go to the dress code, uniform policy. Where do I see that?
Okay, our subcommittee met and we pulled together a draft, policy. Of course, we refer to the K policy, as well as we looked at several other districts and their policy. Milford was one, Crumlin was the other, and I think Norwalk was the third. And we just pulled together what we think would be a good policy for Stratford. We highlighted parts of the draft because there was some discussion, and we wanted to bring it forward to this committee. It is really more the secondary piece of it. We wanted feedback from all of you regarding the policy. Any thoughts?
So, I noticed the part where it talked about, basically the jackets can't be worn in the school or the classroom. Is it just mandatory that all kids put those in the lockers?
It is generally, required that students put them away. I think we probably can change that wording to, it's expected that outerwear will be worn in the building unless there's extenuating circumstances, for instance, heat, or, I guess that's the only reason why you wear your jacket,
Yeah.
because of the temperature.
So would a hoodie be considered?
No, outerwear, we're talking about our winter coats or
Windbreakers,
you
jackets,
can
that
jump
sort of
in there,
thing.
but I would think our winter coats is the biggest thing.
Okay.
And also, especially on the middle school level, we have, our children go from, being little ones to being really big ones all in 10 months.
Mhm.
So in that time, walking through those hallways, it will be best if we don't have extra layers that are unnecessary.
Okay.
And that will be one of the reasons why, in addition to just, we don't, it's just safety concerns, we have coats and we have a locker.
Okay, excellent. That's what I thought it was, but I just wanted, yeah, so, I know some people like to wear their coat, a lot of times I just leave mine on, but, I mean, to your point, it's probably safer and better that they don't, yeah.
I have a question about this. So oftentimes our sports teams have,
Is that what you think?
you know, jackets that represent their team. So it might be track outfit, it could be cheerleading, dance, it could be anything. And they often wear them through school on pep rally days, and just game day, everything else, so. We have kind of, at the high school level, and a lot of our kids, they'll just wear a light jacket. Not many kids wear, unless they walk 2 miles, they don't really wear a heavy winter coat. So, we talked about this a little bit, and I knew we'd have a chance to talk about it today. I'm not sure if that, maybe winter coats? Or
Just
wearing
so
a
you know,
windbreaker, like, so Mike, Phil, that's Mike, Phil. That's
It
not allowed in
confuses us all
school,
the time.
like, you can't wear that in school as a student, because it's considered outerwear, it's a jacket. So is that really what we wanna,
So when we're discussing, I think we're saying, and I think it may be interpreted as winter coats for us.
Just so you know, this is.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I'm personally, on the elementary level, kids by and large take their coats and jackets off. But if it's really cold, sometimes our temperatures are not regulated. So if a kid needs to put on a jacket, let him put on a jacket, personally. It doesn't happen all the time, but if he gets cold, that's not a problem, so.
I think if it's, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think if it's a policy, I do agree with Jack. I think reading the outerwear such as coats, jackets, windbreakers, I read it as a middle school administrator as those winter coats we're walking through our buildings with.
Puffer jackets.
Puffer jackets. We don't need them in our buildings. We don't need them walking around. We don't It's not necessary.
But the language should then reflect that.
Yes,
And it
so
should
I
say
think-
winter jackets.
So I
Would-
think,
Would bulky outerwear help, or is that too vague?
I think vague is probably better than so specific as in jackets, windbreakers, coats. I think that breaking it down that specifically is the reason why we're here talking about in-person hours. I do think if we say coats, winter coats, then it's winter coats and everyone knows and we're done.
Maybe if it said bulky outerwear such as, winter coats or jackets shall not be worn.
Bulky outerwear such as winter coats and jackets.
And we went back and forth on this.
I
whole
know,
thing.
we
Right.
did.
And
That's why it's
That's
red.
why it's in red, that's why we're
All
getting.
the red.
Now, one of the hard parts about a dress code, and we've talked about dress code a lot, Heather knows, she worked at the high school for a while. One of the things we look at is does what they're wearing interfere with learning, or safety? Right, those are the two big factors to determine. We came up with the conclusion that when we did a sample dress code that was sent back almost 2 years ago now, it's really hard, people are different, like, I think it's beautiful in here right now, Andrea walked in and said it was cold. Right, so, again, temperature's different to everyone, you put a jacket on, I don't need one. It's an interesting topic of discussion to have, because I think if we could say winter coats, but again, what if you wear that in the winter? So it's hard to define every single piece of clothing that would fall under a winter coat. But I think you said puffer coats, right? We all know what those are.
But I don't know if I would, if somebody said, tell me what a winter jacket looks like, I wouldn't say that's a winter jacket.
No, that's all I wear in the winter, something like that. Like,
Yeah.
so for me, a winter coat is different than.
But it wouldn't necessarily be classified as a winter jacket, maybe?
I think if we can classify it, that's fine.
Could you write something like bulky
Yeah.
outerwear that
That's
impedes
what I
safety?
think now.
Yeah.
That's it,
So that people
bulky
understand what the
outerwear.
reason is, right? If you put bulky outerwear that impedes safety, right? Because I can think of another one that's not a jacket, right? Have you seen those, the
Oh, yeah.
hoodies, the new
That are
hoodies that are
yeah,
all the way down to your
down, yes.
ankle and really bulky out to here, that are full of fuzz, and the kids wear them? My son just got one, so I do know they exist. But that would be like really bulky with huge pockets, that wouldn't be appropriate. right?
So if it changed in like bulky outerwear, that impedes safety?
Safety.
I
and
agree.
And is
I
that
like the wording.
I like it, I wrote it down.
but is that something that can be,
I think we got it.
easily understood by the average person who reads it?
I believe so.
Or enforced?
I also think it gives the building administrator some flexibility in implementing this policy, because you're addressing the reason why you're asking the kids not to wear it, right? This is impeding safety, either the visual safety from the cameras on the hallway, or, and you might be a student who brought something to school you shouldn't have, and that's a giant pocket that we're not comfortable with. There's lots of reasons that can make it unsafe. And then just remember your OTs and PTs and special ed you can work with if it's a student who has a sensory issue, right? Because we can do compression shirts, we can do other things that can provide that same input.
And that means Phil won't have to take his jacket off before he goes into the classroom.
I'm just looking at the next one.
Well, can we go back to the first one?
The first
Yeah.
page.
Can we go back to B?
Yes, so please, that was a big
B?
discussion.
I'm not trying to monopolize this conversation, I only like to start discussion. We talked about this a lot, and generally speaking, we felt this dress code somehow targets young girls more than
Yes, it is.
boys.
Mhm.
Not that boys don't wear tank tops, but the reality is, I actually do all the shopping for my wife, she doesn't ever shop. So I go to stores a lot, and I actually shop in women's clothes. It's really hard to find like a, sundress, any type of dress, a lot
Without a
of them have
spaghetti strap.
spaghetti straps or even tank toppy straps, and it's not
I gotcha.
inappropriate to wear. It's just not, our dress code, I think, was from 2002, the first one.
Mhm.
And a lot's changed in 22 years with fashion. But when we look at this stuff, again, we have to ask ourselves, does it impact the student's ability to learn? And does it impede safety? I'm not advocating for half shirts to be all around the building, but I think we have to be careful, because this is kind of gender specific in my opinion.
And I also think that if we go down to C, the fabric in the front, back, and on the sides is sufficient in clearing up that we should be wearing full shirts. So we really don't need B. If we can eliminate B altogether, that probably will help us, would help to ensure that we are not being gender exclusive when we're talking about our clothing, our students' clothing.
Well, but it's rare that you're gonna see a boy who wears a tube top. So to say to be gender, I think the whole point of this is to say that you need to cover up appropriately. And it typically is a gender-specific topic.
I do feel.
Outside the tank top, I mean, you know,
Oh, I get what you're saying. I think that, in order for us in our school district to be inclusive and to practice and be inclusive in our policies and our procedures, creating and putting in words a policy that directly targets our girls is not showing that Stratford is inclusive.
Yeah, I actually agree with, and Jack just pointed it out too, if you look at C, D, and E,
It already says
it
it.
covers it,
covers
so
it,
you
yeah.
actually don't need to be explicit in the other.
And sometimes if you're too
Have
specific.
flexibility.
It takes away the flexibility of making some, because parents will go and children should too, and they'll be very like, oh, it doesn't say that, you specified this.
What about just leaving the first sentence in D, shirts and tops must include color of the midriff and lower back of the city or something? And leaving it at that?
So take out B altogether.
No?
No,
Leave
just
that first
leave
sentence
sentence
in D.
one.
Leave
Take
the
out the
first
second
sentence.
sentence.
I'm gonna defer to Jack when he said about buying clothing. That is a very difficult thing to say, that no midriffs whatsoever, should be shown, because that's hard.
I actually think C, D, and E cover it. And let's remember this, high school kids grow too,
Yeah.
right? And
So-
not everybody has the means to go out and buy new clothes all the time when kids grow. So sometimes clothes just might be a little bit short, but the crop style is it. I think that personally, and I'm not the final say here, but C, D, and E cover enough to eliminate B.
And I think if E covers everything that we're talking about, then to make sure that nothing is showing.
Yep.
And it's
D
inclusive.
covers, ensures that no undergarments are showing, so now and then we have fabric that's covering the back, front, and the sides.
So once, I move we remove B.
That's,
Just remove B.
Right?
Yeah.
But to that point, so it says clothing must have fabric in the front, clothing must cover undergarments, but are you guys okay with a girl coming in with a tube top?
We said front, back, and on the sides.
Well, there's fabric on the front, the back, and the
Yeah.
side, but it doesn't cover the, are you guys okay with girls coming in with, no fabric from their chest to their belly button? Is that appropriate? I mean, I wouldn't have my kid walk in, but that's just me, but I don't know what's appropriate in today's school environment.
This again was more of a secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, appropriate is a tough word to define.
Yeah, I mean, are you okay with,
Or shirts with straps must be worn. Then it eliminates tube top, but it could be a spaghetti strap, it could be a tank top.
but it could still be, that doesn't cover the entire midriff, and are we, I remember pajama day, when my kids came in pajama day, I'm like, you're not wearing pajamas to school, it's just not appropriate. Everybody's doing it, I'm like, okay, and that, again, that's just me, but.
I did make Jack wear pajamas.
So, Diana, Phil, what do you guys think, if you don't mind me asking?
I mean, for elementary, we don't see as much as that. But we do occasion have a sixth grader maybe that would try to get away with a two-tone or something like that. I know from having a daughter, it's very difficult buying clothes, at least in her phase, she's 19 now, but it was really hard to find shorts that were below, you had to stand, they just don't even sell them in the stores anymore, it's hard.
One of the other things that came up with midriff when we were talking about it is some of our athletic uniforms show midriff. Like dance team, as you can see, cheerleading, so we're saying you can't wear it, but then we're buying uniforms for kids that are direct conflict of the dress code.
Look at your belly button.
The question I have is, how big of a problem has it been?
I mean, I don't, well,
Because
I mean,
those
obviously, if
fashions are
somebody-
in, I don't think it's as big as a distraction as it used to be.
I don't think it is either.
I don't think
I
it
think
is.
I think if someone showed up with
No one showed up with a
a
tube top.
midriff
Who's ever
on,
showed up with
it
a
doesn't
tube
create a
top?
distraction. A tube top may. That's why I said shirts with straps. Shirts must have straps. And then maybe that replaces B. And so that just means that anything you wear has to have a strap. Spaghetti strap is fine, a,
And honestly, it's more of a safety issue because they can fall. Things.
Well, I'm just using,
The garment,
yeah, we
yes.
just happened to see it before, we've seen it.
and I just said tube top
That's a
more for
safety
the,
issue.
for the
You know-
visual piece of it, not the, but even if you have a halter top that's low, you know, with a strap, I mean, what are we trying to accomplish? Business attire, you know, appropriateness, you know, I don't know.
I think you can go back to the question, I think that your question was, does it affect learning, and does it affect safety? And that's the question that we're asking, correct? Right, so that would be the question that we're asking, does it affect learning and does it affect safety?
How about if we take C, clothing must have fabric in the front, back, and on the sides, and just add in straps in that line? It's not creating a
That's fine.
sentence.
Yeah.
Because then K also addresses things too, that it must be acceptable for active scheduled activities, including phys ed.
And
I've never worn a
K
tube top.
addresses
I don't know if you
uniforms,
can wear a P.
sports
It'll
uniforms.
be,
So,
I did look, but I was
so
scared of it.
omit B and just add
Play with
straps
straps.
and
Yeah.
just under C,
See,
I guess, that makes sense. What about H? I don't know if you, for high school, I mean, do you see it?
I don't think
H-
it's necessary at all. I think-
In H, there's no qualifier there.
Okay.
Does it say, you're saying, you're listing spiked or studded bracelets, we're not saying, are they acceptable or are they not acceptable? If you read
I
this.
don't think that I don't think we need
Do
it
you
at all.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
I think we just threw it in for the
Yeah. That could be omitted too.
I think that when we talked about it, it was something that we had, it wasn't a thing, we hadn't seen it, and we also
Okay.
have a weapons policy, so when we're talking about the multi-fingered rings, that will be considered, depending on what they're made of.
Brass knuckles.
Brass knuckles, and that is in our weapons policy, so we're fine, like, it's already in a policy.
That could be omitted. What about J?
But I wouldn't skip over I.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Wheels or
Um,
on the
Oh.
floor.
I understand the wheels part, because that became an issue.
Like there's a sneaker sometimes have wheels on the bottom.
Yes, you see
Yeah,
that in
that-
elementary. You see that a
Yeah.
lot.
But I think it just can be stated that way. Shoes may not have wheels.
Alright, take the, mark the floor out.
Is there any other kind of shoe that I'm not aware of that, other than wheels or that? What about the ones that light up? Is that an issue?
That's not an issue.
No, okay.
Our orders, they help out a little bit.
J.
Slippers that are considered bed attire, like the fluffy buddy slippers that we're talking about.
I think that J actually can be eliminated because we have I.
Safe
And
and
safe and
appropriate.
appropriate, and we can say that's the, all those things are not of safe and appropriate, so we can just eliminate it, period.
I agree.
So the thing that throws me off there is considered a bed attire. So I know the fluffy ones you're talking about, but no one really goes to bed in those,
Yeah.
right?
We
were trying to-
struggled with what to call
You're
them.
trying to, you need slides in.
Yeah, like
That was the
slides,
question,
and
right?
kids wear like the UGG.
There's some version with slides.
They're kind of like shoes,
Well, they are
Yeah.
shoes.
but they're under,
But
they're
they're-
shopped under slippers.
So, yeah, so that's why we, I think they should.
But some of the Uggs, like the Ugg slides, look like slippers, so.
Yeah. Slides.
Well, that could be omitted.
Yeah, I think you're right, I says it.
Yeah. And is there anything else that, what?
Well, I think do we have any, is there any news from the state about the cell phone?
Yeah, I was curious
Policies?
about that. There's districts all around going,
Front page, Bridgeport
Yeah,
Post.
today.
Yeah.
What's
what's
it
it
say?
say?
They're drafting a policy that it's not gonna be mandatory.
There's gonna be guidelines, we heard today, actually, you guys, thankfully, Kristen Record represents us up there, so she was up on the committee, and they went over it today, and it is just gonna be guidelines at this point, for this year. There's not gonna be an actual policy or a policy mandate or a mandate for districts to put in the policy.
Heather, do some districts
already have a policy in place?
Well, we all,
Couple do.
we have a
Yeah.
cell phone policy, and we.
But some have banned it.
That's what I
Right.
mean.
No.
I'm sorry.
There are, yes, there
I
are
wasn't
some
clear.
districts that have banned it, there are some districts trying the yonder buckets, there are some
Yonder
districts that
buckets.
have cell phone lockers, I think everyone is trying. My recommendation to this committee is that we are aware there is a concern. I do believe we should put a committee together specifically for cell phones, to be able to look at that impact, and I've already started drafting a letter to reach out to our community partners to get some members from that community for us to have a committee. And we need to put thoughtful planning in place based on the guidance that comes from the state, based on what we are currently dealing with, so that we can have an effective plan to implement for next year.
Well, we should probably wait until the state comes out with it.
Their guidelines, yeah, they have to come in. But right now, our policy for middle and high school, they have pockets that they're supposed to be putting their cell phones into, and middle school, they're supposed to be away completely.
Off and away for the
Off
entire
and away
day.
for the entire day. So we do have policy that we are currently implementing that is saying, please don't have your cell phone out in the classroom.
Yeah, the article surprised me when it said, currently 77% of schools in the US prohibit non-academic phone use during school hours. I'm surprised at that number, 77%.
I mean, they
I
do
think we all-
prohibit it,
But
it's
that-
enforcing
That's the
that.
line.
Yeah,
That's
right,
the language.
right,
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 our
non-academic
policy
use.
prohibits it too,
right.
but we have to enforce that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that is where we're trying to figure out how to have the pros and the cons of technology and what it's doing. So there are two major committees, I think, in Stratford we need to have this year, and one is to deal with AI, and the other is to deal with cell phones. And both of those will end up being policy updates, but we need to make sure we're making thoughtful, informed decisions with all stakeholders for us to be able to roll something out that's effective.
One of the challenges we have come up with, is some teachers use QR codes. For resources for kids, and
Mhm.
you have to take out your cell phone to do it.
But before we get too deep in this, should we finish up the dress
Well, I think
code?
that came up because we got to Al, that's why.
Yes, earbuds and headphones.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I think that's consistent with what what the Stratford is doing, is cell phone is only used for instructional purposes, and so should earbuds and headphones.
And I don't think that'll change, regardless of what our cell phone policy is, I think that would be useful.
Use headphones for testing.
Yeah.
They use headphones.
Yeah. Anything else?
I just have a quick question on the first page. It says definitions, attire, grooming, and
Yeah.
dress code. I don't, there's nothing that references grooming in here though, right?
Do you have to have that?
Nope.
I don't
This
know.
is
I-
makeup and tattoos and hairstyle.
They mentioned it in
Yeah, I don't know, but we
in
can
number
get into
3,
it.
Jack, the responsibility for the dress and grooming of students rests primarily with the student. That's where grooming is first mentioned, I think. Number 3.
Okay.
We put it in there because we did see that other districts had at least definitions, that's also, we can just be clear what the
I just think we have to be careful, I think,
Makeup's tattoos.
with all three of them.
Yeah.
I would too.
I mean, it's okay to have it there for definition purposes.
That's it.
I think we check out the other policy and see what it says.
Right, and I mean, I would be concerned about offending people, their hairstyle,
Me
their
too.
makeup.
Yeah.
It's not up to us necessarily to dictate.
I don't think a whole lot is
I don't
saying,
think-
I don't think we had anything for that grooming, a lot, really.
But even just to call it out kind of
Okay.
might get people's ire up, you know, who are you
Gotcha.
to tell me you have say over my.
So do
my
you
check.
think the definition should be omitted from this policy altogether, is it necessary?
I mean, I
If
would.
it wasn't anything we were married to, we were just kinda,
I mean, if we're gonna leave it, I would suggest getting rid of the grooming piece,
okay.
and just,
Attire, dress code?
I think it's
It-
attire and dress code.
It does say right there that it's rests primarily with the student and his or her parents or her.
Right, so it doesn't need to
So
be in
it
there.
doesn't need to be in there.
All right, omit
the whole thing.
the grooming part,
Okay.
unless somebody else feels different.
So once we get through all this, somebody's gonna have to make a motion to amend all these different things, so.
One other question, Heather, maybe you can help out. The enforcement, is this in line with our code of conduct facility?
It's asking you to align it with it. Yeah.
With that,
Same sense.
when you're looking, can I ask another question about the word grooming, because that is also used in the enforcement.
So just remove the grooming.
Grooming.
Instructors code of
And this
conduct.
was
We outlined
discussed
dress
as
code. Discusses
a
a-
dress.
The dress code violation.
Dress code violation.
In that second paragraph where it says enforcement should be consistent with the school discipline plan, that should say with the Stratford Public Schools Code of Conduct, because dress code violations are on that, in that, so you just keep referring to one thing, it'll make it easier.
Stratford's code of conduct.
Yep.
Nice job. Not an easy one.
Anything else?
So for B, what did we decide?
You're taking it out,
The entire section?
the entire section.
Yeah, these take, so we have, I can just go, we're gonna, under definitions, we're taking out number 2, the grooming. We're taking out B altogether. For C, we're gonna add, straps, you know. We are going to take out,
So
Oh,
C
well,
would
for-
say, what would C say?
well, clothing must have fabric in the front, back, and on the sides, and I don't know.
Straps.
And straps.
And straps.
And I had including straps. Okay, I didn't write it down.
How do you define that though? So it has fabric in the front, back,
Shoulder straps.
wait, are you saying I have to have straps on my
Yes.
clothes?
Yes.
Yeah.
But what if I have a t-shirt?
We were talking about the halter top.
But,
It's a
but
big
that's,
strap.
that's not how, it says clothing must
Right.
have.
You guys give me some words to word that. The clothing must have fabric in the front, back, and on the sides.
And a minimum of straps over the shoulders?
Yeah.
Minimum shoulder straps, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, will all these be run through the attorney first or no?
I don't know if with this we
Okay,
need
I
to.
wasn't sure, but it seems sometimes we do that.
With this, I don't know that we, we can if you guys want, but
I think I'll be taking out
Go
things
ahead.
that would not, would, yeah.
Well, most of this was
All
taken
right.
from Cade and.
It was
the-
Cave
and
in
before.
other districts.
Right.
Yeah, so I think
Carla
we're-
did, Carla did a great job putting
Yeah.
together the initial draft before we met,
She was
so she
leading
had a
on this.
lot of,
Alright.
And I think typically when we send it to the attorney, it's for legal references, but this is kind of our own
Pretty
district
straightforward,
policy.
exactly. And then we have for, G, we're gonna say bulky outerwear that impedes safety,
Shall not be.
right? Shall not be worn in classroom during the school day. We're gonna omit H, we're gonna omit J. Oh, and, going back up to I, we're gonna take out cannot mark the floor, take that out. On the last page, under enforcement,
Grooming. Under enforcement. Yeah.
yeah, enforcement. We're going to take out the grooming piece. We're gonna, one of the, school staff member, school administrator discusses the dress code violations, it is recommended, we'll keep that. And then we're gonna refer to the Stratford Code of Conduct as opposed to the discipline plan. And that's what I have.
Should we say same gender?
Which one?
If we look at two, same sex instead of same gender. I don't know,
Which
maybe
one?
person words right here, it says same sex, should be same gender. Maybe
It could
person
be,
words,
it could be same. Could be same, did you all get that where it says it is recommended that another adult should be present and at least one of the two adults should be the same, we had sex as the student, same gender as the student?
Yeah.
I think gender's better.
All right, gender, yeah. I think that's a good catch.
And not to
What if the
throw,
student's gender,
Neutral.
and not to throw a monkey right, yeah.
I know.
no,
I don't know,
that,
I'm asking,
but if they're gender, if the student's gender neutral, then
It won't matter, it won't matter.
or should we just take it out completely? I don't know. I'm not-
Take what out completely?
And just
Oh,
say it has to
fair
be with two adults? Does it, I'm just saying,
Do we need two adults
to say
If I had a daughter, I wouldn't want,
two
two
males.
Two men.
genders
That's right, yeah.
deciding
So do you feel comfortable with the gender versus the sex?
uncomfortable gender.
But I think that there's a valid point on the table that what if a student is gender neutral, should that be the policy? That's the question on the table.
If the student is, pardon my ignorance, if a student is gender neutral, you can still have a male and female, people identify as that?
No, they don't
Identify as
identify.
either.
Or in other
Either.
words, no, like they don't, the student doesn't, but if an adult is going to question a violation of, possible violation of a dress code policy, then the two adults that is interacting with that child could be a man and a woman. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, so.
I think you're fine with gender. I will
Yeah.
get a more informed answer for you. We have to amend it later.
Okay.
And we can, if we approve it with gender, maybe that's something we can ask the attorneys or somebody, and we can amend it at the board meeting if need be.
Thank you.
And that's what I have for the corrections.
Do you have all that, Teresa?
Trying to. If not, I can get this to you, Teresa.
Yeah, it's on camera and
Yeah, Lou's got
probably
it out
shared.
So then you would make a motion to approve as discussed. I guess.
Oh, okay, this is my first time I make a motion for you all to approve the changes that we made to this policy.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Now,
Thank
now,
you.
now you have to make a motion to approve as amended. Just formally.
Somebody has to make it.
Carla?
I did that.
So the motion would be to approve, is it, you made a
Oh, so
motion
the
to
motion,
amend?
so the motion,
To approve as amended.
the motion to approve is amended.
Yeah, as
Is that it?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll second it.
thank you.
Again, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Okay.
I don't know if all that's necessary, it's a formality, but.
Thank you.
He's very formal. Passes unanimously. Thank you. I have to say before we go on that I love this committee because the subcommittees, the work you guys do is incredible.
And
And the
Teresa?
time you put into it.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, Teresa, can you, when you send this over to the board, can you send it like redlined with the cuts so we can see what we've actually pulled out? Because I know you had some comments, and if we want to discuss some of those, whatever, and I had some other thoughts, but, just for discussion purposes maybe, so we can see what we pulled out.
Yes.
First, thanks.
Okay, going on to discipline policy, coming soon. What's that all
Well,
about?
you actually have it, so I don't know why it said coming soon, but you have it in your little packet that was sent to you. And those are the updates based on the new legislation that did pass regarding suspensions and expulsions, notifications, and number of suspension and expulsion days. These policies are vetted, appropriately made, changed in order for us to match what the state is now dictating we can do, okay? So I do think this should be a very simple one for you to be able to put forward, because we have aligned with our new regulations. There's not much you can do about it. Okay, and then Title IX should have been the one that said coming soon, but believe it or not, Bertram and Moses did get it to us, so Teresa will be sending that one over to you ASAP. And just for that, you gave them copies? Oh, good, so you should have a hard copy of the Title IX.
Was it in the email or just over there?
There's the one
Okay.
today, 5145.9.
Is it over there, Teresa, in the corner?
It should be, yes.
Oh, it's-
So
okay.
she made copies for you in the corner. Bertram and Moses wrote our last Title IX policy, and so this is a little bit unique. This doesn't often happen. And our administrators just learned about this yesterday. But this will be one of those weird situations where you're gonna look at and approve this new policy for the 2024 legislation that came out, but we're actually gonna keep both our policies up and posted for the year. Both the 2021 regs and the 2024 regs. Because the rule with the new regulation is, there's no statute of limitations when someone comes forward to tell you there was a Title IX concern. And if the Title IX concern happened in July, they're gonna follow the 2021 policy, okay? If it happened after August 1st, they're gonna follow the 2024 policy, okay? The policy was vetted and drafted by Bertram and Moses. They had done our policy originally. They do all of our documents as well, all of the communication that comes out of Title IX. So again, this one should be pretty cut and dry because we shouldn't be changing their language in the way that it's written, but we do have to have both posted.
Should I guess, make a motion to approve the Title IX policy?
I second.
Any questions or further discussion?
We were all trained earlier in the week.
Yes.
Well, yeah, at least.
They were trained yesterday.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Again, passes unanimously, thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
And then the suspension, is it called discipline policy or is it the suspension?
It is
It's
your
such-
suspension and expulsion and due process. That is what actually got changed in the legislation, the number of days you can suspend, the grade level that can be suspended, and the notification you need to give.
And I put
For
this
the
twice, or is it
suspensions.
just long?
It's this thick.
It's pretty thick.
Very
Yeah.
thick.
It was a lot of pages.
It's pretty thick, it's a lot of pages. Our administrators tomorrow get trained on this, so this is great. Tomorrow morning, they're gonna get trained on this, and again, these are changes the state made. So the state said that you now have to notify differently for your expulsions and suspensions. The state said you can only in-school suspend 5 days instead of 10 days. They said you cannot out-of-school suspend any child under grade 2 unless they have, caused physical harm, so you can't suspend them for anything other than physical harm. So, you know, they're very specific, they're very detailed. These updated ones were from CAPE, who had to changed and sent out the new legislation to everybody, so, you know, this is not as urgent for you to approve right this second. You guys can take time and read it and discuss it, and we can make some tweaks or amendments that we need to it. Regardless, your administrators have to follow the regulations for suspension, but they're not so drastically different that you have to go right away.
And the conduct committee is putting together, is already working on,
Yes.
there's separate, another committee, putting
Yeah.
together, different documents, different things that you will all will have in your schools. Maybe it's a teacher reference or it's a student reference, based on the
changes.
age level of the students. So elementary is gonna look very different, from the middle and high schools. So that we are in the middle of working on that.
Yeah, so that's the code of conduct, the poster and the
It
delivery of that.
implements.
So the code of
regulations.
conduct is gonna reflect this language,
Yeah,
but this might not be policy yet.
right. We're not exceeding it, right? So nothing changed where we just gave you permission to suspend kids for 20 days. If anything, they're getting less, so our policy can stand while you guys continue to debate it. Should you be debating it into October? No. Like, this should be cleaned up by the end of September. But I don't feel as obligated as I do with Title IX for you to have an answer for this right this second. You can read it, you can look at it, you can see if you see anything that Kate didn't notice, and you can give suggestions. We're gonna continue, you know, having the code of conduct ready to go. We already have a code of conduct in place, it's language we're changing and supports we're changing.
So, I mean, so one of the, it says martial arts weapon means a nunchuck, has a number of things, but unless it's a, I think it should say to include but not limited to, because there's a whole host of
Yeah.
martial.
What are you looking like,
It's the thing you look at when you have to look up the weapons for
On
expulsions.
the
Right,
fifth
so
page,
The
definitions.
state gives a definition
Okay,
of an expulsable weapon.
okay.
And you can say not limited to,
Mm.
we don't need to say it.
Mm.
If we feel that, you know, that was gonna be imminent harm or extreme harm, we're gonna go up for expulsion anyway.
Yeah.
But those are the actual words taken from the state, those are what they,
I just remember reading this like 2 years ago and that kind of stood out.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole host
there's a
of.
whole host of,
martial
and
arts
sometimes
weapons.
we'll get a call from a high school or middle school that says, does this count?
Mm.
Or what kind of knife is this?
That's why now, if there's a knife, we have to send a picture with a ruler.
Yes,
Mhm.
right,
So
that's
you
what
see
they
the
say,
length
yeah.
of the blade.
Yeah. That's more in our administrative procedures, Mike, than it is in
Mhm.
our policy.
It was just existed.
Yeah. But again, we could totally put not limited.
But then you jump up to deadly weapon and
Right.
any weapon, so
Any weapon.
that would cover anything that wasn't in
Yeah.
the martial arts
Yep.
weapon.
So Heather, everything in red those are the changes from Kate.
Yes, those are the changes from Kate. Yep. And those match the new changes from the state.
State.
Mhm.
And this all mirrors state language,
All
so
there's
it's,
the state language. Yep.
are you guys okay with sending it up, or do you
Well,
want
I
us?
have a quick question, sir, on, I don't know what page it is, but it's, under, D, actions leading to disciplinary action, including removal from class suspension. I'm thinking about programs that we have for kids, and clearly, they're in the program because they have specific challenges, but oftentimes I'll get from teachers, well, you know, they insulted me, whatever. Like, if you take a look at, number 1, striking or assaulting a student, members of the school staff or other persons. There's a reason why they're in the program,
Mhm.
and
And that's where you're gonna use your special education discretion, and then the reason you're gonna use that discretion is because it's a manifestation of their discipline.
okay, that's, okay.
So there's law under IDA to
Okay.
protect you there. So you can still leave that because IDA is always gonna trump.
Gotcha.
I have a quick question. On that same page, number 4, under D, it says violation of smoking dress regulations, but I think the dress code said students will not be overly punished for violations of dress code.
shouldn't be a barrier.
So,
They should be suspended or expelled for
dress,
dress
yeah.
violations.
yeah, so I probably should,
Yeah.
have that introduced now. Probably take dress out of here.
I agree.
Violation of dress.
Hey, you're not gonna suspend a kid for
No,
that.
you're not.
Right.
This is
Great, it's very
actually
clear.
leading to
Yeah.
disciplinary removal or suspension. We are removing sometimes a kid for their dress code.
But it's not suspension or expulsion.
No, but it's removal. They're all listed here. Disciplinary action for removal from class.
Oh, they do take out a
You
class.
do get taken out of
Okay,
class.
Suspension and or.
Suspension
expulsion.
and or expulsion.
So we do this a lot sometimes, so I just wanna make sure.
Yeah.
But it said, students should not face unnecessary barriers to school attendance. And it thinks something like they should never be spoken to in front of other students.
Right.
So
That's
it
why
might be
you have to
removed from
remove it
class.
class. But if you sent me an expulsion for a kid's dress code, I'm gonna send it back to you.
Can't do that.
No.
No, I know that. Okay, I saw it, I wanna make sure we're,
I mean, I'm perfectly fine with you guys moving this forward. I just wanted, to respect your committee, and if you needed a little more time, then I'm okay with that as well.
but the conversation can't take more than 90 minutes.
Very true.
That's right. Consider it
Right.
ISS.
And that is definitely a seclusion in ISS.
I think this conversation should take more than
We know that.
10 minutes.
Do you have a question?
Heather, I do, number 9, a walkout from or sit in within a classroom or school.
9 under what, D?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, under D, 9, and I just wondered if it's been looked at through the lens of, First Amendment rights.
We have these on an occasion.
We have one.
We did, Jeff and I got to experience one together as an administrative set. And when students engage in a walkout or a sit-in, they are cutting class. There is consequences for cutting class. And most students who are willing to protest something are willing to take that consequence. So we're not gonna not do our consequence or suspension, removal, or whatever because of the decision they made. As with any good protest, there may be a consequence that comes with it.
Right.
And there could also be something positive that comes out of it, if what they are protesting, the administration then agrees to, come to some kind of mediation with, but they are cutting class.
So does that belong in here to clarify that
What they're saying is you can still get disciplined for that, right?
Yeah.
Because that's under the section saying that you could be removed from class, suspended,
Yep.
or go up for expulsion. You're obviously, again, not gonna get expelled for something like that.
Right.
But you did cut your class, and the consequence might be a 0 for that day in your class.
Thank you.
Yeah. But they haven't come up with a state code for that yet, just so you know. They're in the middle. Jack was pointing out that they added unauthorized entry into schools, opening a door. And we have all the alarms on our doors now, so we know when someone might open a door and let somebody in. And that is now an offense in which the state is saying you can have a consequence for it.
Possession or ignition of any fireworks brings back a high school memory. We're back in class after lunch, and all of a sudden a firework goes off. So some kid had put a cigarette next to a firework. So that after.
What's interesting though, those little, I'm sure they still sell them at the parade.
Snap.
Those little white things you throw around, they
Yeah.
say,
It's not.
Yeah.
sometimes you see those.
Kids used to do that all the time, throw So you're up on the roof with a cherry bomb attached to it?
Yeah.
How about number 31, hazing? It's just kind of hanging there by itself.
Step in the D.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
under G, 31.
I think we have a,
Did we have a definition prior to that?
It would depend on the investigation for the hazing.
Yup.
The hazing can be bullying. We have
Yeah.
specific bullying policies that would go under that. Hazing can be Title IX. We have
Yes.
specific policies that can go under that. So it's generally put here, but your building administrators would be putting it into the appropriate bucket. The full, which means if it ends up being Title IX or bullying, they may be up for expulsion.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Because it leads into bullying.
Couldn't be.
It leads into bullying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I mean, I don't think there'll ever be an exhaustive list that hits everything. There'll always be something that wasn't named somewhere that comes up, but I do think that they have definitely been a little more thorough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if Gabe is recommending it, then it's certainly,
I don't see an issue with it.
And they had to come out with it because the state came out with the legislation, changed the rules, Cape updated everything and got it to all the districts.
And they started addressing, we were talking about 504s, and I needed to figure on,
It's-
yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's in
through,
there.
it's in there, so
It's in
there's
there.
protection.
so all the work we did was done for us.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
found a nice system with doing F, what was it, F?
Control F.
Control F. Control
See,
F.
that's where technology helps us.
There was Control F, there you go, anytime you did
I
5,
think it's
10
solid.
days.
I
Mhm.
think I'm very
I'm fine
comfortable
with
if you
it.
guys wanna move it forward.
I don't think there's that
I
much
think it's good to
changes.
have it in place for the start of the school year, or as soon
Me
as
too.
it closes, but
So I'd make a motion to send to the board in favorable recommendation.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you again.
Does that include
Thank
the
you.
act, held act 2445, or is just all referenced in here? Okay.
Policy for review, upcoming future meetings, transfer of credits.
I love it.
Been working on that one?
That should be, I think that's relatively easy one.
Yeah. Communications.
Is that the one we're looking at?
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
working on it.
So, and I don't know if you saw my email.
About the lawyer?
No, Teresa has, I think
A
you
digital.
said the 1,000.
I have all of series 1,000, I would only have to retype 2,000, which that's not that many.
Okay, so we can start making changes.
Okay.
And we said.
So if you could, send it to the three of us, myself, Jessica, and Marie, the 1,000s?
I don't think, I think we're
Am I-
done.
that
We
shows a
only
little
had a
space.
couple more sections.
We're pretty much done.
We're pretty much done.
Were you reviewing it or changing it? Was there a concern?
No, Jack's
There's-
group is taking homework.
Yeah, they're taking.
For the communications,
Yeah.
with some updates, and then
Yep.
Mike has gone through
We
the
can
lawyers
do
for
it
a couple of wordings.
Okay.
But most of it has been.
I think you're right.
The reason I'm asking is because
think it was on our
us,
list.
right here, the three of us are working on putting
Oh.
together,
Was it
communication protocols for administrators, buildings, central office, and a community. And so I wanna make sure that whatever changes you make, that I know you're making them so that as we're working on.
So, once we get the PDF, I think you can keep it, I've been.
We
keeping
can
it-
track in our,
yeah.
to make the changes.
So you can make those changes and maybe send it over to
That would be
the
good. Yep,
superintendents.
I think that, I think maybe within 1 to 2 meetings, we should be done.
Yeah, I think we, but so some of the things, there was, some of the things were just old, outdated, some were
Yeah.
just changing the language. There was one piece that said that, the press can talk to students without a parent's approval.
We
which
updated that.
We reviewed, we asked the attorney, and he's like, oh, that's crazy. So
I
we just-
don't need to excuse myself, which is why I have these two here today. Another appointment.
Have fun.
Bye-bye. Two.
Yeah.
Homework.
Did someone say I'm doing homework too?
Fantastic.
Yeah, Jack, in
That's fine.
Bill's email in April, it says Jack's group is taking on the homework policy.
I don't think we're- you guys look
Homework.
I don't know those things.
Oh,
Do you wanna go?
Does
to
anybody have
homework?
field trip yet?
Have what?
Does anybody have field trip yet? Because I'll take it because that's, we dealt with it this year
Yeah.
with the out
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we identified field
So,
trips. Okay, so.
We don't have any right now, so. it's-
Okay, our subcommittee.
That's a new subject.
Let's do field
We'll
trips.
say field
All
trips.
right, okay.
Okay, so
And-
transfer
and-
credit is gonna be,
So
Yeah.
we did,
Just Jack.
get a
No,
sign
Jack.
off, updated
Jack.
by
Oh, by
the
yourself.
attorneys at the meeting, I think.
I'll work on homework.
Just a release
By
form.
yourself.
Right, right.
That should be part of the policy.
How about grading?
Or was that?
Was there much with that?
So is the purpose to just review these or to propose changes?
Well, in the review, there's.
Review and propose changes. Okay.
I mean,
Some
part
are-
of the.
Some go back so far.
Yeah, grading I know was just done a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it doesn't need to be looked at. We talked about this with Katie and Phil today. So certainly,
Well, maybe you review and you come back and say nothing's needed.
okay.
Well, part of the reason why we wanted to have so many of you guys on it was because we can pass policies, but we don't know the day-to-day operations, so our policies might be,
Okay.
you know, it's best to get your insight before we pass rules that affect you, so.
Chris, you mentioned field trips, right? Promotion, how about that one? Have you done anything with that one yet? Promotion, acceleration, retention?
how about we start with what we've got so far, because we've got
Yeah.
transfer, we've got communication, we've got people on homework, we got grading, we have field trips, how about we leave one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's clean it up.
Let's clean
Before we
up,
move on.
yeah, that would be my suggestion.
Moving along to nice
Yes,
pace.
because
Oh, I
the
see.
main word in there is retention and we need that to be.
Working us.
I know, right?
I'm gonna speak up on behalf of us, I think we gotta, let's do that. Then we come back, once we're done with communications, maybe large group, we'll regroup.
We can move on to something else,
Yeah,
okay?
figure out something.
And then going on to tabled items, admission, that's still tabled, right?
Is that the new starting, is that what admissions means?
I think that was tabled
That was the
until.
one holding off, for the
Redistricting plan?
redistricting.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
And
redistricting.
the redistricting, I thought we passed at the board already. Oh, no, not redistricting, I'm sorry, no.
That was the age,
Yeah.
The
no, we
age
did,
of entrance. This is admission and
residency.
placement.
And then any open discussion? I forgot, welcome Phil and Diana back, and of course you're back as a past member.
For a short time. Thank you.
Phil, feel free to chime in anytime.
Yeah, thank you.
So if there's nothing else, next meeting, September 18th, that work for everybody, 4 o'clock on Wednesday, the 18th?
Yes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Really good meeting.
So
And then
Monday's
just
the
an
meeting
hour.
where we start
That's
at
an hour, that's good.
Perfect.
We're gonna do superintendent evaluation. Okay. So, I just figured it was gonna be a busy meeting, so we're not.
You used to be honest with us.
I know.
When we get that down.
I did.